Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me for another video. So today's video is a little bit different. I didn't end up vlogging on this trip, so I'm doing like a little sit down and then I'll plug in all the amazing footage we have. But of course, as you see in the title and the thumbnail, this is all about one of the most infamous places in New Zealand, one of the most visited places, the tallest peak, the tallest mountain in New Zealand, Aoraki or Mount Cook. And I also got to do something pretty exciting near Mount Cook, so stay tuned for that. So if you guys know anything about Mount Cook or you've watched any other videos about it, you know that it's one of the most beautiful drives in New Zealand, and it really did not disappoint. There are all these massive snowy peaks surrounding you when you're driving through this almost flat valley, so it seems so intense and so dramatic. You can usually see Lake Pukaki and its gorgeous blue waters, but because of the time that we drove up there, it was completely covered in fog and we weren't able to see the lake, which kind of sucked. But the drive was still spectacular, and once we got through the fog, it was just absolutely stunning. We made it to the Hooker Valley Track parking lot, got all of our gear ready for this little hike. It's just about a 3-hour return trip, so not that bad. But we did end up spending 4 to 5 hours because we stopped a lot, took a lot of videos and footage. The scenery is just awe-inspiring, breathtaking. It's unbelievable. It's so beautiful there. So on this hike, you cross 3 large suspension bridges, which is a lot of fun. It's a very popular hike and it's really accessible, so expect crowds no matter the time of year. There were so many people on this hike. We went on like a Tuesday morning and it was absolutely packed. The pathway is good. It's pretty flat, but it's a little bit narrow in spots and the bridges can get like really backed up. I am going to share a little pro tip with you guys if you don't know this or haven't heard this before. I don't know if I should be sharing these secrets, but before crossing the 3rd suspension bridge, there is a pathway on the left-hand side. It's a little bit hidden, but you could see before you get on the bridge, there's like a clear pathway. This pathway leads to a viewpoint where there will basically be no one else, and you're gonna get even closer to Mount Cook than if you were to cross the bridge and go to like the main lookout. Of course, you can do both. You could go down the side track and then come back and do the main one. I was just wandering down there to see where it went, and at the end of it, it was like, oh, this is like a little secret. It's like a little hidden gem because you cannot get there from the main viewpoint. There's water in between. It's also important to note that there are washrooms along this pathway. So there are washrooms in the parking lot. Like usual, very common in New Zealand, there are public restrooms everywhere, but about 20-30 minutes into the hike, there are washrooms on the actual hike. So if that doesn't tell you how busy it is, like the trail itself is not that demanding. It's pretty flat. There aren't a lot of elevation gain areas. There's a few spots where you have to like climb uphill for a bit, but it's very easy. It's a very easy track. I wouldn't even really call it a hike. I'd call it more of like a nature walk. And this is definitely an iconic place in New Zealand and arguably the top thing to do in New Zealand. Aoraki Mount Cook is the highest peak in New Zealand at 3,724 meters. So in comparison, the Sky Tower in downtown Auckland is 328 meters high. So Mount Cook is like over 11 Sky Towers tall. Is that right? Like, I feel like that's wrong because that is massive. That's huge. Is that right? Is it? The scenery here is absolutely stunning and the mountains are so majestic and they just dominate the skyline. This was definitely one of the best hikes that we've done here. Even though it was crowded, the scenery and just actually seeing Mount Cook in person was incredible. It was definitely an experience I will remember for the rest of my life. Not only because Mount Cook is just epic as heck, but when we got back to the parking lot after our like 4 to 5 hour trek and taking all this footage, I realized that, well, I left the lights on in the car, which means the battery died, which means we were stuck at pretty much sunset at this hike, kind of in the middle of nowhere. We didn't have booster cables. No one else had booster cables, but AA membership, we bought that when we were in Auckland when we first bought the car, and they came to our rescue. It did take about 3 hours for them to get there, but when they did, they boosted us and it didn't cost anything. So I purchased an AA membership for I think about 150 New Zealand dollars, and that includes at least one free call out. So hopefully we don't have to go through that again. I mean, it was a rookie mistake. Like, The lights were on. When I opened the door, the car was beeping like crazy, but it usually beeps because it has like a fob and it freaks out like randomly and we don't know why. So I just assumed it was that, but it was the lights. Rookie mistake, y'all. Rookie mistake. So because we got stuck out there, we didn't really have a lot of time on the way back to look at that drive. We didn't get to see Lake Pukaki on that day. We did not get to Tasman Glacier, which is definitely recommended if you're in that area checking out Mount Cook. That's all right because we made it home and that's all that counts. So we ended up staying in Twizel that night because I had some adventurous things going on the next day. Day 2. This was the entire reason we came to this area at this time. About a month or two ago, I saw an ad on Instagram. That's how they get you. That Skydive Mount Cook was having a half off sale. So their normal price is like $400. They had it on sale for 199 New Zealand dollars to jump from 13,000 feet. So I thought, okay, let's just do it. If the weather isn't good, they say that they can rebook you. So I booked it for these specific. So I booked it for these specific dates, and the weather turned out great. So we were able to do the little skydive. It was just me, and I've skydove. I've been skydiving once before in Las Vegas when I was 21 years old. So 10 years later, that's how old I am. 10 years later, doing it again in New Zealand with a view of Mount Cook and Lake Pukaki, and it was just awesome. It was a little bit intense. Like I wasn't able to get my legs up for the landing. I guess I'm just like incredibly out of shape, or the harness was too tight or something. But either way, it was a little nerve-wracking at the end there, but it was still amazing and definitely something I'm going to remember forever. We were able to check out Lake Pukaki that day as well and get a little bit of footage. Super amazing. I'd love to go back to this area and do some hiking, like the Mueller Hut hike, which is really close to Mount Cook, is really high up on my list. But I don't want to do it in the middle of winter because of avalanche risk and everything. So possibly in the summer. I mean, I don't want to promise myself that, but I would love to do that hike. After I went skydiving, we pretty much just drove around a little bit and then headed back to Roxborough. So it was a really fun adventure. I'm so glad we finally got to go out and check this place out. It's just been this like prolific, amazing place, and it totally stood up. I think if you're going to go down to this region, staying in Twizel is a really good option. We got an Airbnb for I think like $100 for the night. It is winter, so off-season prices, but if you're going to stay somewhere in that region, I think normally people would stay in like Lake Tekapo. Twizel was really cute, had everything we needed, and I would definitely stay there again. So thank you guys so much for joining us for another video, and we'll see you really soon in the next one. Bye.